The Tale of Bistun is a fascinating story-driven action-adventure game that absolutely captivated me with its setting and story and the way how it goes about telling its story. It's inspired by a 12th century poem called Khosrow and Shirin, which is a tragic love romance story that's been passed on from century after century. You play as a character called Farhad, who is a stone carver who kind of gets caught in the middle of a wider love story of this Khosrow and Shirin story that's taking place. But you've lost all of your memories and you're trying to piece them back together again, both mentally and literally, because one of the things that you can do is go up to various pieces of stone on the mountain of Bistun that you are busy navigating throughout this entire game, carving various different either murals or statues as you try to piece things back together again. Alongside you in your journey, you have a couple of friends. One of them's called Odysee, who is a giant ent tree, basically, that's come to life. And you'll also have your trusty bird, who acts as a waypoint for you and will constantly fly off, telling you the direction of where you need to go. The Tale of Bistun utterly reminds me of a PS3 favourite for me called El Shaddai. It has the same narrative setup that has a almost omnipresent narrator who will constantly call out what Farhad is thinking and feeling. You'll have conversations back and forth between yourself and Allseed, but also picking up journal entries that have been left scattered and strewn across the mountain, and that will spark kind of inner dialogue conversations with yourself. It's really engaging to have this constant stream of monologue and conversation taking place as you wander around the mountain of Bistun. You do stop for cutscenes, but 80% of the game's narrative takes place as you traverse, and I think that just makes for a really engaging and succinct experience that doesn't pad itself out for padding's sake. It's all integrated quite nicely. All of these story-driven elements are held together with a really nicely designed world that has lots of unique feeling areas. It feels rich in lore, and combined with a superb soundtrack that is very diverse and interesting and has a mixture of classical Persian instruments but also some more cinematic synthetic orchestrations. It just all comes together really, really nicely. So far, it's all been so very, very good for the Tale of Bistun. The gameplay elements, though, are where I feel like people are going to start getting a bit picky, and I'll try to explain. With Tale of Bistun, the gameplay is split into two very distinct sections. The first is what takes place on the mountain, and it's where you'll spend the majority-ish of your time. And when you go off for a new area on the mountain to explore, your main purpose here is to free nature of the blight, which are these purple, crazy, gooey tendrils and tentacles that are spreading blight and darkness throughout the land. What this has done, though, is turned creatures, animals, humans into kind of blight monsters that will come and attack you and kill you. Combat in Tale of Bistun is very, very simple, and this is where I think people might get a little bit underwhelmed. You are invincible so long as you roll, is the main thing with this. So I was playing this with my Xbox 360 controller, so A was constantly and used to be rolling around. X button is for spamming attacks, and it is very quick-fired attacking, but you kind of get in a few jabs and then you just roll out of the way because the telegraphed attacks for the majority of the enemies are really over-telegraphed. So you can see when something's coming and just roll out of the way, and even if you're slightly late, so long as you're into the roll, you're invincible anyway. So the stakes are quite low for the battling. Even when you start to come across the kind of bossier style characters, they're still very easy to defeat because this roll and you're invincible kind of thing is a real get out of jail free card. Enemies aren't random, they're crystallised into blight crystals, which shatter when you get near them. And so if you want to really dumb down the difficulty of this game, you're very clearly telegraphed when you're going to go into the next battle, because everything is locked into small little arenas where the blight seals like a little portal door shut so that you can't leave until you've killed everything. But you can still kind of edge forward and stay in a corner for a little bit and don't run around the whole arena area, triggering all of the crystals to shatter and therefore upping your difficulty. You can just edge forward and get a couple and then clear them and then edge forward and do it again. And that's exactly how I played. And as a result, the game was largely a bit of a pushover because I was able to control the flow of enemies coming towards me. And it did kind of mean that everything fell a little bit flat when it came to the combat side of things. It's responsive, it's quick and fluid, but there's just no depth there at all. And the AI enemy counterparts, the AI are okay, but they just have a one-trick pony moveset really, where you've just got to watch out for a few perhaps ranged attacks here and there, and that's it. So it felt a little bit hollow. Outside of the combat arenas, you do some very light platforming, but the emphasis is on the word light. You will be running around very linear paths, being taken in a very set direction. Occasionally you'll get some choices, which is normally where some of those diaries are held, or like statues that you can build out by carving out into the rock. But they're very easily choreographed, so they're quite difficult to miss. The other thing is that all of the platforming elements are dealt for you automatically, so there's no jumps really to be had. If you need to smash some rocks to kind of create a bridge, for example, or a passage across a big cavern, or canyon, sorry, you would be able to do that very easily telegraphed by giant orange rocks. And if you're trying to like sidestep across like very, very tight ledges, it's done automatically. You can't fall off. So again, that difficulty curve is really, really low. The second half of Tale of Bistun's kind of gameplay takes place in an alternative kind of mirror world that's in your head, or alternate reality. It's kind of not 100% explained. And these kind of are a mixture of the same thing again, but distilled down even further to being smash the rock to create the path that leads you to a boss battle of sorts, or being able to just attack some trapped vines to let things go so that you let your next character or god or something like that free, so that you can then have some dialogue. So what I'm trying to say here is that these areas, whilst crucial to the plot, are even more restrictive and therefore more dumbed down. So yeah, if you're expecting unlockable moves, XP, upgrades, any kind of upgrade tree, any depth to any of the combat apart from a couple of pummeling hits and a dodge to avoid something, run around the side and do it again, that is the depth of all of the complexity of the combat and the platforming and everything. If you know that going in, and you like a story-driven experience, and you put that paramount to your gaming like thumbs up and niches and needs, then Tale of Bistun, I think, would be an absolute definite recommendation for you, because it nails the story, the atmosphere, the world around you, the soundtrack. And actually, even though like all of the moves are super, super basic, they play really well and the controls feel good and your character has like weight to it, and it does play really well. It's just really basic. So if you place your emphasis on all of those kind of upgrade trees and really digging deep into the character and the battles and the combat, I think you'll be disappointed with Tale of Bistun, and it wouldn't necessarily be a recommend for that crowd. One final thing I just wanted to raise though before I close out this review, because I found it super odd. This is the first game that I've seen of this kind of style that has 0 graphical options. You can't turn various things up and down. There's no option to change the resolution even. I just found that really odd and strange, especially when you've got sound, language, subtitles in there. Where were the graphics options? I know that will annoy some people. So yeah, written review over on highplanegames.com. Any comments or questions, leave them down below. I really enjoyed this one. I think other people's mileage will vary. Take care. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/Higher Plane Network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.